Good evening. Let's see, Lashunda. Hope you're feeling better this week. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, welcome to our last live meeting for the term. It is week number 5. Lashunda, are you feeling better? Can you hear me? Let's go ahead and see if I can take you. There she is, unmuted. There you go. You feeling any better?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How are you feeling? Any better?
Somewhat better. I'm gonna to have surgery, so
Oh, geez.
out. I have my bad weeks and stuff.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I hope you are feeling better soon. Hopefully, next term will be an easier term for you.
I hope so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, this is our last week in leadership. And so, we're going to go ahead and talk about you've got 2 discussions, and then also there is an exam, and the exam is 2 parts. So, let's go ahead and take a look. Let me scroll down here and we'll take a look at everything and get you done for the term. All right. Average Cadillac owners across various models. 63 until Escalade was introduced into the market. Cadillac Escalade had an immediate appeal to affluent rappers, professional athletes, and a variety of young, wealthy entertainers. What's the business strategy lesson here? So that is the first. Let's see, we've got Milton and we've got Wanda who have been talking. Let's see about this. What do you think, Lashunda? What do you think the ideas? You think the leadership of Cadillac got together and said, "Hey, it's time for us to try to appeal to younger buyers"?
Yeah, I think everybody does that in any way, in any business. It's like you're trying to get the you already have your older adults, you think.
Okay.
It's the younger generations that you're really trying to, they're hard to please nowadays.
Well, I think, a lot of younger people are, let's see, immediacy. We want everything now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know that, things like Cadillac, Lincoln,
Yeah.
Mercedes, some of those cars, Buicks, have the reputation of being what old people drive.
Yeah.
So I think that lots of times what you'll see is you have to see a shift in the difference in the way that leadership thinks.
Exactly.
And it can be a little bit tough to sell because you don't want to alienate the base that you already have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you also want to try to turn people who are maybe in their 30s and 40s into lifelong Cadillac buyers.
Yeah.
I know that a few years ago when I was getting ready to trade cars, I went out and I drove a CTS, which is their kind of sporty coupe kind of car, and it was really kind of neat. And I did have a little bit of an issue. I was like, well, I just don't think I'm old enough for a Cadillac. And I kind of, laughed about it. And I was probably, 43 or 44 at the time, but it was like, I just don't feel like, I'm quite ready for that. But the Escalade, obviously SUVs, SUVs have an appeal to people who have families, and your rappers and the professional athletes and the young wealthy entertainers. A lot of them have a lot of kids, or they've got people that they're dragging around all the time, or stuff that's being dragged around. And so I think it's become kind of a cool vehicle to have. And if you notice, Lincoln has redesigned their SUV, and they have Matthew McConaughey doing.
Oh yeah.
If you've seen, he's doing the commercials now.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty cool with younger and middle-aged people think that he's and he's a good actor. He's an interesting guy, and he seems like a rebel, and he seems like someone who wouldn't be driving a car unless it was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So I think that Lincoln did a good job when they tried to choose someone that had kind of a little bit of this, bad boy exterior to him.
Yeah, and he also states that he's been driving it for years.
Yes. Now, you'd like to think that those things are true. You'd like to think that, you wouldn't,
Yeah,
uh, he is being paid, but,
yeah,
you'd like to think that he isn't being paid enough to lie. And
yeah,
he has been. And, but if he has, and he's been doing the ads for a couple of years, and Buick had Tiger Woods doing ads for them for a while
yeah.
before things in Tiger's world kind of turned upside down. They also had Peyton Manning, who was doing ads for them, and of course, he's the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, so he is obviously a recognizable figure.
Yeah.
Cadillac also had, I'm trying to remember whether Kate Shaw, maybe her name. She was on Grey's Anatomy, and then she was on another show called Private Practice. She's a real pretty woman, probably in her 40s with red hair.
Mhm.
She did the Cadillac ad for a while too. Again, I think trying to appeal to the younger generation. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next question that you have. That one is due on Friday, and it is: suppose you aspire to become a senior executive of a large company. How would working in an office as a supervisor, a production supervisor, or manager in a fast food restaurant help you achieve your goal? What do you think, Lashunda?
Let me see. Suppose just try to. Oh, well, if you become a manager like I was a supervisor at a small answering service, whatever you learn, you'll learn how to negotiate. You're gonna learn how to handle your employees. You'll learn how to uh I can't think of that. Set goals. Anything in it, you're gonna have to learn how to follow your boss and be
Right.
able to also lead.
Okay.
You know.
Good. So basically, I think what we're looking at here are transferable skills.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a couple of times in class, and I talk about this in the seated classes that I teach for schools. People say, "I'm only a fill in the blank. I only work at McDonald's. I
Yeah.
only work at Dunkin' Donuts." And I tell people, look, it took a lot of money, and it was a dream for the person who owns that franchise to own it. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort to be able to own franchises. The other thing is, these skills that you learn, I don't care if you were working at a grocery store or you're working at a fast food place or you
Mhm.
are working in a small office, whatever you learn along the way, when, as you say, it has to do with dealing with people, dealing with deadlines. You have to be on time to work, whether you
Mhm.
are, in charge of a big department in a big company, or if you work at the smallest McDonald's in the United States. You
Yeah. Or
still
even
have
a mom
to.
and pop store. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yep. You have to learn to be on time. You have to learn to get along with other people. You have to learn to get along and provide good service to your clients and to your customers. One of the first jobs I had when I was in college, when I would go home during the summer, I would work at a Friendly's Ice Cream, which is a New England thing, and it's they served food and they served ice cream. And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing is I was a short order cook for a
Mhm.
while in the summer, and I did breakfast. I would go in at 4 o'clock in the morning and start slinging eggs and bacon and all kinds of stuff, and it was I learned a lot of really good values about hard work, and I
Exactly.
learned I met a lot of people that I never would have met
Yeah.
along my path had I not been in that situation.
That's true.
So I think that you need to look for, no matter what you're doing, you need to look for what transferable skills you are going to pick up along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so being a supervisor, being in production, being in the office, being a manager, again, can you deal with people? Can you deal with personnel? Can you deal with meeting deadlines? Can you deal with problems? Definitely problem solving, because if you work at a restaurant, there are emergencies that happen. There are things that happen that you don't expect them to. People call in sick at the last minute and you are
Yes.
understaffed, or the truck that was supposed to bring you supplies doesn't show up and you're out of certain things on the menu. All kinds of stuff that happens that you are going to have to deal with. So I think that that's the key is transferable skills, and always be on the lookout. And I think it takes some time. I think when you work at some of the first jobs that you have, and then maybe 15, 20 years later, as you get into the middle of your career, you can look back at those places that you started and go, wow, I can see now how I learned some good stuff there. Sometimes it's harder to see when you are just starting out and that's where you are. I think
Yes.
it's easier to appreciate when a little bit of time goes by. Okay, now then the other thing that you have due is you've got your final exam this week. You've got part one, which some of you have started working on already, and they are multiple choice questions, true and false. It's not timed, and you can use your book, but you only have one attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so keep that in mind, that when it comes time to work on that part one, that objective part of your exam, that you're somewhere quiet and you're somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted, and where you have a good internet connection so that you can sit down and do it, and make sure that you have access to your book. And don't be afraid also to go out onto the internet as well. I tell people, if you see a question that you don't know the answer to and you can't seem to find it in the book, look for it on the internet and see if you can't find an answer out there. Considering it's not timed, you have as much time as you need to get these done. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that is part one. And that is the objective part, because you either get the answers correct or you don't. When we look at part two is a bunch of small essays. 10 essays, 150 words apiece. And people look at this and they go, well, 150 words times 10, that's 1,500 words. Oh, my Lord, I can't do that. Well, here's the thing. The more topics you have, the easier it is. You'd be surprised how quickly you will write 150 words about these topics. If it were just one or two questions, then 1,500 words would be something that you would really have to think through, and you'd have to do a lot of research, and you'd have to put something together that's fairly complicated. But for 150 words, it's not much when you're looking at all of these different topics. So what you should do is tackle them one at a time. And I tell people, you have until Sunday. So to be honest with you, if you have the time, I would tackle one or two a day rather than trying to sit down on Sunday and do all of them and be beating your head against the wall. If you can find time to do one or two, or maybe you can do, one tonight, or you can do one tomorrow and some research, so that on Wednesday, when you have more time, you can write 3 of them on Wednesday if you've done some of the research tomorrow night. Like it says, a 1 or 2 sentence response isn't going to earn any points. You need to make sure that you are putting your references down. Each one of these is a topic that is not general knowledge. So it's not like you can write, well, the sun comes up in the east, and you don't have to put any reference on that because everybody knows it. These are things that topics that we have dealt with during the term, and things that you need to think about, scenarios that then you need to go out and do a little bit of research for. So number 1, explain why someone would want to assume a leadership role. What are the pros and cons of being a leader? And this goes back to our first week. A lot of you talked about the fact that you may want to be a leader, or you may not want to be a leader, and why. So think about, well, why would somebody want to have a leadership role, and what are some of the pros and cons? According to Globe Research, there are 10 differences in cultural dimensions. What are they? Well, okay. a sentence on each one of those is going to get you to your 150 words, no problem. Explain why it's important for an effective, good leader to also be a good follower. Explain the concept of business ethics and describe the standards by which a leader can determine if a proposed action or decision is ethical. So what are some of the things that you would look at if you were a leader in a company and there was a decision that needed to be made? What kinds of things would you think about? What kinds of things would you look at to make a decision as to whether or not this action is ethical or not? You might want to look at how many people it's going to be impacting. You'd probably want to take a look and see what the company's stance is. You might need to look at the company's mission statement or see what the company's code of ethics are. Many companies lay out a code of ethics that everyone in the company is supposed to follow. Discuss the challenges that leaders face in working with diverse populations. We talked about diversity this term and why diversity is a great thing, but diversity obviously can bring about challenges. So talk about some examples of specific challenges that come from diversity. And they might be things like language barriers. They might be things with different cultures. I know that, something that may be seen as funny to us here in the United States, it's not funny to somebody else. The way that we say things, the way that we phrase things, and some of our actions may be very acceptable here. But if you are working with diverse cultures, they may take offense. So those are some of the things, the challenges that leaders face when they're working with diverse populations. Number 6, discuss the importance of cognitive intelligence and being an effective leader. You can look up cognitive intelligence easily enough in your book. And again, that's one of those terms that if you want a little more information on it, go ahead and look it up online. And then there's your reference for your short essay as well. Okay? Any questions on those so far, LaShunda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Number 7, discuss the role of innovation and creativity, causing and sustaining effective organizational leadership. What is the role of innovation and creativity to sustaining and causing effective organizational leadership? What's meant by a contingency approach? Please cite the more prevalent theories. So there are some different theories out there about contingency approaches. I would look for 2 or 3 of those and cite some examples. Number 9, compare and contrast leading and managing. What are the differences between leading and managing? There can be slight differences. It's kind of like when you hear people say, what's the difference between hearing and listening? You and I hear things all the time, but are we really listening to them? Leading and managing. To me, managing is dealing. It's coping, right? If you're managing something, it's kind of like taking care of a problem sometimes. Where leading, to me, is more of a proactive approach. If you're leading people, they want to follow you. You've given them some reason. You're being proactive. To me, managing is more reactive. It's like after the problem has already occurred or the issue has already arisen, now how do you deal with it? Okay? Can every leader become a manager? Can every manager become a leader? And then, last but not least, describe the 6 principles of persuasion. And again, if you do a sentence on each one of those, and then you do another sentence providing an example, you will easily be to your 150 words. Okay?
Okay.
What do you think? Not too bad?
No, I've done these before. So.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, my suggestion would be that if you can grab a couple at a time, that's going to be the best way to do it. Some people, would rather spend half of their day on Sunday doing this, but I think most people are going to be served better by doing a couple at a time so it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, because I've tried that, and it is overwhelming when you're trying to get it all done. It seems
You
like
know, and then I don't know about you, but when I get overwhelmed like that, then I get tired, I get
yeah,
frustrated, and then it
yes,
seems like Murphy's Law sets in, and I can't find the research that I want, or
exactly.
a thunderstorm comes through and I lose electricity, or
Yeah,
there's an accident nearby and the internet gets blown out. Yeah, that's Murphy's Law. So I think it's better to try to plan ahead and do a little bit each day. All right. Well, Lashunda, any other questions since this is our last meeting together? Anything else that I can help you with to help you get across the finish line here in the next few days?
no, ma'am. I'm just right now catching up and making sure I have everything. It may be late, but it'll be in.
Okay. All right. As long as for anybody who owes me anything, as long as it is all in by this Sunday, that's the cutoff to get everything in, and then it can all be graded and your final grades posted. So I want to thank everybody for those of you who've been able to come to the live meetings, but I know that most of you have heard them after the fact if you haven't been able to come to the meetings. So I want to thank you for that. And it's been a pleasure. Leadership is kind of an interesting subject.
It is.
Hopefully you
I
guys
enjoyed it.
good. Hopefully you've learned some things along the way that you didn't know
Yes.
before we started our little adventure. It's amazing how fast 5 weeks goes. Uh,
It does.
but you will have a break and then upward and onward in your next set of classes. So if you have any problems or questions, make sure that you are emailing me this week. I'll be checking the email and coming in and taking a look at your posts that you're putting up for your last couple of discussions. I'm in the process. Tomorrow I'll be finishing up the grading of the stuff that you turned in for week number 4. And before you know it, you'll be in your break week and you will get to enjoy a little bit of time off. So, again, thank you guys for being diligent and working
Thank
hard this
you.
term. No problem. Again, I hope you enjoy your break. And Lashunda, I hope you feel better soon. Keep in touch and let me know that you're doing better and enjoying the next term.
I will.
Okay, take care.
You too. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye bye.